Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Wiley and this is my presentation on prompts and prompt hierarchy. To begin, I want to discuss what a prompt is. It's a cue or form of assistance that encourages an individual to use or engage in a specific skill or response. It's a teaching method essentially to assist a learner in accurate responding, and it functions as a bridge in instruction that assists the learner in identifying the target response and then learning and engaging in that response. So, what's a prompt hierarchy? Well, as we know, hierarchies refer to a tier or a level system. With prompting, it's based on intrusiveness or level of assistance that's required to support an individual and aid them in responding correctly. Excuse me, this is an example of a prompt hierarchy, and it highlights our six most commonly known prompts in order of least invasive, so minimal assistance needed, and the most independent in responding. So we start at visual and we work our way down, which means that there's more assistance that's needed, which implies and shows that an individual is less independent in responding. So we're going to go over these six in the sequence of this PowerPoint to know a little bit more about what they are and give a couple examples so that we can apply them. So, why are prompts important? Prompting is important because its purpose is to assist learners in moving from incorrect responding to correct responding. And it simultaneously teaches new concepts or materials more efficiently. It increases responding rates and lowers anxiety and frustration that naturally come with learning new things. In an article I read, it stated that prompting can facilitate appropriate behavior by increasing the pace of instruction, which can lead to maintenance of a learner's focus and attention while reducing frustration when a learner does not know how to respond. Think about it. If we can assist learners in understanding, they make fewer mistakes, which means that they're, able to grasp that concept more. Those problem behaviors we're so familiar with are reduced or eliminated, and therefore their focus and their attention is higher. They're maybe more excited about that material, and they can eagerly respond faster. So that's why prompting is so important. So our first prompt is our visual prompt. And as we look at our prompt hierarchy, it is our least invasive of prompts and evokes the most independence of responding with the aid of a prompt. So they are a cue to a learner as to how to respond. They could be anything from a picture or a text or a photo or videos. They could be something that's positional, even something that has to deal with proximity. So you may have target responses or target tasks, and by simply moving the correct response closer to that client, the proximity of it, they're more inclined to appropriately respond by selecting that task or target. Those are visuals. Some examples include visual schedules or written lists, because these provide a visual as to what the learner is expected to do or in what order they need to be done. Another example, which I love, is naturally occurring prompts. Visual prompts in this sense would be if you have a target behavior to throw away trash. Well, if you notice trash lying about, those are visual prompts which would aid that learner in that target behavior of picking up the trash and throwing it away. So those serve as visual prompts. Our second prompt is our verbal prompt. Again, because we're moving down that prompt hierarchy, it's becoming more intrusive, which means it's a little bit less independent. And verbal prompts are what they're known for. It's spoken instruction. So it's literally verbal instruction given to a learner. It's direct if it's the exact answer, and it's indirect if it's a hint for that learner to respond without providing that full response. So let's look at a couple examples. Like I said, direct is an exact answer, where indirect is a hint. So if you're teaching an individual their colors and you're holding up a green flashcard and the target behavior is to tack that color green, you would say this, or say green, for them to directly respond with a verbal prompt. Or you might hold that green flashcard up and say to the learner, grass is what color? Or provide some sort of hint in that sense, and they would say green, which is that target response to tack that color. So those are verbal prompts. Our third is a gestural prompt. Again, more invasive, a little bit less independent. Excuse me. And they are a means of providing a form of gesture or bodily movement to indicate to the learner what to do or how to respond. And they could include pointing, nodding, making eye contact, looking in a specific area or at a specific item as a means of gesturing for that learner to respond. An example, as I stated, could be pointing. You've got a learner whose target behavior is picking up a pencil. Whether it's on the table, on the floor, or in your backpack, if you point to where that is, that should be a gestural prompt for them to respond appropriately by going and picking up that pencil. Our fourth prompt is our modeling prompt. Again, we're moving down that hierarchy, so it's more invasive and less independent of a response. And basically, they're a demonstration of that desired behavior for the correct response. You are literally showing the learner what the correct response is. So a couple examples. If your target response or you're teaching a client to touch your nose, you're going to touch your nose yourself to model that desired correct response. Same with roll a ball. You're going to show them through modeling or through demonstration what that sequence of responses looks like so that they themselves can correctly complete it. Now we're going to talk about our fifth and our sixth level of prompts, which are physical prompts. And these are physical guidances for a learner through movement. And there's two types, partial and full physicals. We're going to get into those here in just a second. So our partial physical prompts, because we're getting hands-on with the individual to show them physically how to perform a task, they're more invasive. So this is where you are physically guiding a learner, but you're doing so minimally, almost as a nudge to get them started on that movement of responses. It's important to notate that more of the movement is led by the student and not by you, the instructor. An example here, I've got a couple, but an example would be if your target behavior or you state point to the stop sign and they're not immediately responding, you nudge their elbow to get them started in that movement so that they would touch that stop sign. Our last prompt is our full physical prompt, which is our most intrusive prompt and also evokes the least amount of independence from our learner. And this kind of prompt uses physical guidance, typically hand over hand, to guide that learner's movement through the entire movement or performance of sequence of that response. You got to think it quite literally means you are physically moving the learner's hand or body to complete the entire response. So take, for example, sorry, getting ahead of myself, your instruction or target behavior is for them to draw a circle. You're going to take your hand over their hand, grab a pen or your writing utensil, pencil, crayon, anything, apply it to the paper and draw a circle. You are fully assisting that learner in completing the entire movement. Now let's talk about fading and most to least prompting and least to most prompting. So fading is important because you always want to, no matter what the prompt level, fade it to independence. With least to most, you're going to meet that individual with their least amount of prompting. So you're going to start at that top of that pyramid, the visual prompting, and you're going to work your way down to where they need assistance. Whereas in most to least prompting, you're starting with our most invasive prompting, which is our full or partial physical, and then you are fading to the least prompting level, which is our visual. Again, you're moving towards independence. That's the ultimate goal of any prompting. So a recap, we want to remember that prompting is important because it teaches independence. We want to remember that there are 6 types of prompting, that the more assistance that's provided means that the learner is less independent. And the less assistance provided means the learner is more independent, which is where we're going for, because we want them to be independent. And lastly, we talked about most to least and least to most prompting. Again, we're working towards that individual independently responding. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed my PowerPoint. If you have questions, let me know.